Last night, you probably complained about your sleep. Maybe the pillow was too flat. Maybe it was too hot. Maybe your phone kept buzzing. Maybe you just couldn't switch your brain off and you lay there staring at the ceiling thinking about something mildly embarrassing you said in 2014. That's fine. That's a perfectly valid modern human experience. Now, let me tell you what sleep looked like 50,000 years ago. Because it was not a pillow problem. It was not a screen time problem. It was not a my room isn't dark enough problem. It was a something outside is making a noise and I don't know if it wants to eat me problem. Every single night, without exception, for your entire life. We have completely lost the plot on sleep. Not because we sleep badly. We actually sleep remarkably well by any historical standard, but because we've forgotten what sleep was actually designed to survive. And once you know that, your Fitbit sleep score is going to feel very, very stupid. Welcome back. Here's something nobody tells you about modern sleep. It is an extraordinary, almost miraculous achievement that you take completely for granted every single night. Think about what sleep actually requires. It requires you to become unconscious, completely, for hours. In a world where, for the vast majority of human history, becoming unconscious was one of the most dangerous things you could do. Your muscles go slack, your senses dull, your reaction time goes to zero. You are, for all practical purposes, defenseless, and you choose to do this voluntarily every night because you have walls and a lock and a phone that can call for help. The reason you can sleep 8 uninterrupted hours in total darkness in a climate-controlled room is not because your body evolved to do that. It is because human civilization built an enormous infrastructure specifically to make that possible. Your bedroom is one of the most sophisticated pieces of technology ever created. You just don't think of it that way because it has throw pillows on it. Strip all of that away. Now we're talking about real sleep. So, what did prehistoric sleep actually look like? Because it was not what you picture when you imagine it. First, they almost certainly didn't sleep in one long block. The idea of 8 solid hours is genuinely modern. Before artificial lighting changed everything, humans slept in 2 distinct phases: a first sleep from shortly after dark, and then a period of wakefulness in the middle of the night lasting an hour or two, then a second sleep until dawn. This was so normal that historical records from the medieval period reference it constantly. People would wake at midnight, pray, have a conversation, have sex, check on the fire, think, then sleep again. Prehistoric humans were likely doing something similar, or even more fragmented than that: short, alert bursts of sleep, partial wakefulness maintained throughout. Not because they had insomnia, because the night was alive and they knew it. The ground was hard, the temperature dropped, the fire needed tending, and something, somewhere out there in the dark, was always, always moving. Here's where it gets genuinely interesting. Because prehistoric humans didn't sleep the way you sleep alone, in the dark, in your own room, with a door between you and the rest of the world. They slept together, in a group, always. Sleeping alone in the prehistoric world wasn't a lifestyle choice. It was a death sentence. Predators pick off lone individuals. The warmth of a group was sometimes the only thing standing between you and hypothermia on a cold night. The sounds of people around you, their breathing, their movement, was its own kind of security system. If something was wrong, someone would wake. The group, even unconscious, was the alarm. And within the group, sleep wasn't synchronized. Recent studies of modern hunter-gatherer groups, the closest living analog to our prehistoric ancestors, found that at almost any given moment during the night, at least one person in the group was awake, not by design, just naturally. The group's fragmented sleep patterns meant someone was always semi-alert, always partially watching. The group was the sleep system. The group was the safety net. There was no other option. Now let's talk about what was actually out there, in the dark, while they were trying to sleep. Because predators, as a concept, doesn't quite capture it. We're talking about cave lions, bigger than modern lions, cave hyenas, larger than the hyenas alive today with bone-crushing jaw pressure. Leopards, who are famously comfortable dragging prey twice their weight up into trees for safekeeping, and who specifically target sleeping animals because sleeping animals don't run. Wolves, bears. And at certain points in human prehistory, other human groups, which were arguably the most dangerous threat of all because they understood exactly how you thought and exactly when you'd be most vulnerable. The prehistoric night was not peaceful. It was not silent. It was an environment that had evolved over millions of years specifically to be dangerous to animals who weren't paying attention. Sleep was the moment you stopped paying attention. The tension between biological need and mortal vulnerability was real every single night for hundreds of thousands of years. Quick one. If this is making you feel weirdly grateful for your bedroom, subscribe. Every week we do exactly this. Take something you do every day and show you how insane it would have been 50,000 years ago. It's free, it takes 2 seconds, and your ancestors would have considered it an extraordinary act of leisure. Now, back to the thing in the dark. There's one element of prehistoric sleep that doesn't get nearly enough attention, and that's the fire. Fire was not optional. Fire was the difference between the group surviving the night and not surviving the night. It kept predators at a distance. Most large predators are wary of fire, at least enough to think twice. It kept the temperature survivable. It kept the psychological terror of the dark manageable. The fire was the bedroom wall. The fire was the lock on the door. But fire requires fuel, and fuel runs out. And someone has to notice when it's getting low. And someone has to get up in the dark, in the cold, away from the safety of the sleeping group to add more wood. At the exact moment when everything outside is most active and most dangerous and most hungry. Imagine that being your job. Not every night, but some nights. Waking in the deep dark to the dying glow and the sudden cold and the sounds you cannot see. Getting up, adding wood, watching the fire take, getting back down. Trying to sleep again knowing you have just announced your location to everything within half a mile. That's not insomnia. That is something with no modern equivalent whatsoever. Here's the part where it gets strange. Because all of that, the fragmented sleep, the group alertness, the hypervigilance in the dark, left marks on us that are still there, right now, in your body, tonight. You know that feeling where you're almost asleep and suddenly your whole body jolts awake for no reason? That's called a hypnic jerk. Scientists think it may be an evolutionary reflex, your body testing whether you're still conscious, still holding on to whatever you were clinging to while sleeping in a tree or on exposed ground. Your nervous system running a quick check, still alive? Good. Carry on. You know how you sleep much lighter in an unfamiliar place? In a hotel room, your first night somewhere new? That's called the first night effect. Your brain keeps one hemisphere slightly more alert than the other when the environment is unrecognized. It is scanning, it is watching, it is doing exactly what it would have done in a strange stretch of prehistoric territory where the threat landscape was unknown. You are not a bad sleeper, you are a very good prehistoric human. That is not the same thing, but it is worth knowing. So here's where we land, and I want you to actually take this one with you. Your ancestors did not have a sleep hygiene routine. They did not have a weighted blanket. They did not have a white noise machine or a sunrise alarm or a magnesium supplement. They had each other, a fire, the ground, and 50,000 years of evolution telling them to never fully let go of consciousness because something out there had teeth and absolutely no sympathy for how tired you were. And they did it, every night, for hundreds of thousands of years. They lay down in the dark surrounded by things that wanted to kill them, and they closed their eyes anyway, because they had to. Because the body demands it, and because sometimes the bravest thing is not a heroic act in daylight. Sometimes the bravest thing is just closing your eyes in the dark and trusting that the people next to you are paying attention. Next time you can't sleep, remember that. You are not broken. You are ancient. Your brain is doing exactly what it was built to do, in a world that no longer exists. The least you can do is subscribe.